seen, then obviously just turn off your camera and you're saved from that one, which is superb. Obviously, if there's anything you'd like to contribute, please use the chat. Ross is monitoring the chat and he's very capable of interrupting me whenever necessary. So we can get involved with that one. We'd like to welcome James Burke for a first one. Helen Fuchs in for her first meeting. James in for his first meeting. Bill, I believe, is in for his first meeting today. And if I've missed anybody off the first timers list, I do apologize. And Richard's in today. So that's really cool. Right. So on today's show, we're moving on in a moment to a little section about the beating heart. We're going to look at sight, how we look at things. Ross has got a dawn story for us today. Emily's come on. She's going to talk to us about the bee that she adopted earlier this year. And as a result of that, we've looted the archive and we've got a couple of little short bee videos to add to that party, which is exciting. Ross is going to do a presentation on the Ridgeway, which is another of the long distance walks in our series. Where
the second to last one in the series.
Second to last one in the series at this moment. We're also going to have a look at some mice. We've been given a great piece of mouse video. So we're going to have a look at that. And we've got a link we're going to put in the Facebook group tomorrow to another quality piece of mouse video that, well, unfortunately we couldn't save it, but we can share it to our Facebook page. So catch a look at that one tomorrow. Obviously we'll have our challenge as is usual.
I'm on it.
And we'll obviously be looking at the benefits of becoming a founder member again before we come to a conclusion. So just to start off with a bit of countryside walking philosophy. We've been talking through the last episodes about the benefits of getting outside, and especially if our world is not the way we would like it to be, about walking into the countryside and leaving our worries and any anxieties behind us and finding a favorite place, finding a place where, if you like, we can just feel a little bit special. There are places outside that feel more special than others. And we talked about last week that when you're there, if you just try and, if you like, listen to your inner self. But what I wanted to do today is just spend a couple of minutes, because one of the things, excuse me, mate, James is, one of the things that I find really helpful when I find a place and stop and sit, and sometimes it can take a few minutes to just sit and let all of those things go. But it's quite an amazing thing when you actually think about it. Every single thing that is on this planet has a beating heart. Yeah, whether that's the smallest creature crawling along in the earth, whether that's something that walks or slithers on the earth or flies above it, everything has a beating heart. And even if you think about it, plants almost have a heart that actually pumps the liquid around the leaves, branches. If you think, trees are amazing creatures because they can actually pump sap up to sort of like, some of them are 200 meters high. That's a phenomenal amount of power. We really struggle to do that with our modern technology. But when you think that every single thing that is out there has a beating heart, if you take a little while just to stop and think about that, and acknowledge that. Sorry, I was told I don't look sexy in my other glasses. So it's funny, when I sometimes stop and I lean up against a tree and I just think about that, you can almost hear or feel that beating heart pulsating, pumping away. It takes just a few seconds to really clear your mind and let that happen. But it's one of the ways that is really, really useful for just using the countryside as a feel-good factor because it gives you space and it gives you peace and it gives you stillness. So maybe when you're out next time, find that favorite special place we've talked about and just see if you can hear a beating heart in the countryside.
Thank you very much, Dad, for our first bit of philosophy for episode 4. I do have to agree, time has flown. It only feels like yesterday we were doing episode 1 and working out how and why and what and where and everything worked. And now we're sat here and like to think we're doing it quite well. But no, on to our next area for the day, which is a section on sights, which is number 2. If I'm correct, number 2 in the senses.
Number 2 in our story of the senses. Yes, indeed. So, how many times have you ever, if you can drive, we've been driving down the road, and I mean I've done it. We were driving out of Deal, gone along the straight mile. I'm going towards Dover, and I'll get to Dover, and I suddenly think, where was Ringwold? Yeah. Been driving along, gone into autopilot. Now, I've obviously been seeing what's in front of me, but I haven't actually looked enough to remember it. How many times when you've gone out into the countryside and you've been walking along talking, maybe you've been flushing out the anxiety, but how many times have you actually really looked all the time? Have you ever actually thought about where the horizon is? Where you're looking? Is it, and there are times when we take people out on the walks and we look, and there are times when you might look to the left and your horizon is maybe 30 meters away. Behind you, it might be a couple of meters away. In front of you, it might be a mile. It might be 2, 3, 4, 5 miles. But if you actually adjust the way that you look at all these different things, you see so much more. Do you look and really you catch all of those little moments of movement? Because those moments of movement are the things that quite often lead you to something that's bigger. If you're walking along a path and there's an area of woodland and then fields on the outside, it's those changes of environment that quite often will give you those best places, those sections of movement. You'll see things that you wouldn't possibly see otherwise. Birds moving across. Or mice. We've got a mice video later, I mentioned that. But you catch those little moments when you really, really look. There are many other examples. We need to move on right now. We have our dawn story today. It's going to be led by Ross. So without any further ado, tell us about your dawn and show us your dawn story.
Well, this is my first dawn story, hopefully of many. I got up start of this week on Monday at about 6:30 and looked at the weather forecast, and sunrise over Kingsdown was at 7:30. So I took myself down there in my car. It was very cold that morning, so I took myself a takeaway coffee with me. And I stood up on the Rifle Range in Kingsdown and watched the sun come up. So here is the video from that morning.
Oops.
Good morning. Ross, checking in. Simple Life Circle.
Screen. Well, that's very strange.
Good morning.
Why is that not?
Ross, checking.
Decided that it doesn't want to appear. I don't know. Not to worry. We'll have to do it a different way. If you will excuse us for 1 second. I don't know where it was put.
Should be a Simple Life Circle. So, this is another example of Simon and Ross utilising new technology, and no, I think we'll have to move swiftly onwards.
No, it is a shame that we can't show you that. We'll have to bring it next week, which is rather annoying because we had planned everything this week, so we hoped it would be a little bit simpler and it would be a little bit.
Anyway,
faster flowing.
If we go back, what we're going to do is, you see, because Emily came in today, we've got this kind of bee special. We've got a couple of bee videos, one of which was filmed a few years ago. It's a little bit out of the arc, but it will play fine. And we're actually looking at a buff-tailed bumblebee on a Hebe. Now, that's always pretty cool, but this one is actually filmed in November. So let's get into the PowerPoint. It was at the beginning. Or before this one. Here we go. We'll play this one through. So, can you see the star of this show? On this Hebe, I'll try and stay out of the light, is a buff-tailed bumblebee. Look at that. It's the end of November. End of November. How cool is this? Really is spectacular. So, what would we say about November and flowering? There aren't many other Hebes out there at the moment, but this one is fantastic. We were just in the process of trimming down this with Cosmea. But look, the fuchsia is still flowering. And there's another one, still coming. Here, penstemons, still in flower. Amazing. Over here, look. Cyclamens. Cyclamens are fantastic for overwinter. Just thought I'll show this to you because it's fantastic. I mean, as wildlife gardeners, we always try and leave deadheading until March, so that anything that's in the garden has got a food supply, anything that eats seeds, anything that finds flowers, to be honest. We just think that's superb. Ultimately, if people want it tidy, then we'll tidy it. But just think of the wildlife. Bees, back to the bees, as we've just seen here, don't all hibernate over winter now. Some of them will keep going all year round. And ultimately, look at that. Isn't that absolutely fantastic? So, bumblebees are an amazing creature because without them, we would all be gone, probably within 50 years, because they pollinate just about everything that we eat or everything that we eat eats. So it's really important that we look after them. But when you actually think about what a bee is and the way it's built and the way it's constructed, it really shouldn't be able to fly around and do what it does. You've all heard that cliche, well, if a bee can fly, but if you just think about that for a minute, you see the bee's quite a large chunky insect with quite a large chunky body proportionately, and it's got 4 tiny little wings that lift this big chunk of a bird, of an insect into the air and take it around. Now, the fact that they actually manage to get up and can fly with those little wings going like the clappers. And if you've ever sat outside when a bee goes quite past anything up to about 1 meter, you can feel the air vibrating by the way that that bee is working. So that's pretty amazing in itself. But when you think they then go out to our flowers and they fill up on pollen and nectar, yeah, and they then got to get back to the nest, okay, which is making them even heavier than they possibly are beforehand, which is why quite often you'll see them resting on the path. It's not because they're having a rest, they're absolutely knackered. But when they've then got their energy back again, they've actually got to get off the ground. And if you watch any creature that flies, it's the bit where you actually get into the air that is the toughest bit to do. So the fact that they can actually get up, start flying, collect all that pollen, and then actually get back to the hive to keep themselves alive and pollinate all our plants to keep us alive is absolutely amazing. And it's why when you see a bee, and you just take a few moments to think about what that bee does and how it lives, and the fact that it then keeps us alive is even more amazing. So we're going to move on to another little video now. And this video is filmed exactly as happened. But it almost looks like these bees are on some kind of a drug, because They're just absolutely manic. Have a look at this.
Hi, this is Simon. It's another little simple life video. I don't know if you can see this. I'm sure you can actually see it. This is actual video of why we should let our grass grow a little bit and not take out all of the weeds. This is absolutely chock full of bees. Can you see and hear them? This is absolutely unreal. They love the clover. Absolutely love the clover. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's salvias around here. There's strife and anemones, various other plants that are amazing. This is just bees at their bonkers. I just love the sound. It's alive. Listen. This is why meadow turf is such a fantastic idea. This is why leaving our grass a little longer is such a superb idea. This is why not weeding out all of the planting that's in your grass is such a good idea. Leave the clover. Leave the buttercups. Leave the daisies so that you can get this. And if that's something that you would really...
Absolutely brilliant. That was filmed back in the days when we were still doing gardening, and literally there were hundreds, if not thousands, of bees just carpeting the grass. So if you can imagine, that's for me is like moth to a flame. I'm in there on the ground, get my camera out, and there's bees all around me buzzing like crazy. And there's just so much energy and excitement when you're that close to life that's doing its own thing. It's absolutely unreal. And there's another amazing bee story. It was a Saturday back in the days where Saturdays were a kind of regular thing. And I was had a new lad with us, and we were over at Betts Hanger working at a lady's house. And they had a bee's nest in the cavity of the house. And the bees didn't provide any great issue or any great problem. So they left them there, even though they had really young kids. And it's a really classic example of how the fact that bees don't ever sting us. They're just not interested. There was this, all of a sudden, this big, long column of bees came out from the wall, and they literally all got together in a ball that was probably somewhere between 1 and 2 meters in diameter. We are talking thousands of bees. I have never heard anything like it. The sheer volume of bees. It was absolutely dominating everything that you could hear was bees. And we all came out, but there was no danger. There was no issue because they weren't interested in us. All they were interested in was the new queen. The lad that was working with us didn't have that understanding. It was amazing. He wouldn't come within 10 to 15 meters of this big fuzzy ball of bees. And then after a few minutes, this ball split into 2 balls. And we've now got 2 smaller balls of buzzing bees. And then again, after another minute or 2, the lot that stayed kind of in the ball that they were in went back into the cavity where they just came out from. And the other lot went into another cavity further around the house. And after all this noise of bees, there was silence. It was really eerie silence. And that was one of those, it's never happened before, it's never happened again since. But it's one of those moments where you just think, my God, how absolutely unbelievably amazing is this? Now, with another fantastic story about bees and some fantastic photos, Emily takes photographs, and you see these photographs, you can see why Emily takes photographs. I'm going to hand you over to Emily. So,
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Yes, as Simon said, I'm Emily. And tonight I actually wanted to introduce you to a friend that I made during the first lockdown, and her name is Jacqueline the Bumblebee. Just for some context, for those who don't know me, I am a photographer and I specialize in outdoor imagery, but I do work with families, local businesses, and also document weddings, which of course all dried up in the spring thanks to COVID. So I decided to use my time productively and get creative and actually take some photos for myself, which I very rarely do anymore. And I set myself the challenge of really working on macro photography, especially since all the blossom was out, Kent was looking beautiful in spring. And I thought I'd like to focus on something intricate like an insect. So I chose the bumblebee. And I'm not ashamed to say I failed multiple times before I met Jacqueline, just because they are so fast. I'd be sat staring at this one petal for like half an hour, and then the bees would land in the wrong angles. And I was getting a bit fed up, to be honest. But then my mum found Jacqueline on the lawn of her garden, and it was clear that she had run out of energy in the heat. So I picked her up and I took her to find some pollen. Our first stop was a foxglove, but Jacqueline was a rather curvaceous lady. So as she emerged from the flower, it began to droop and she very nearly tumbled out. So I caught her and we tried a different plant, which is the Californian lilac in the first photo that I would like to show you.
Pretty sure she cropped up.
No.
Good morning.
There we go.
Thank you, perfect. Initially, she didn't have the strength to hold herself up at all, so I held her little bumble bottom while she did her thing, and after a while she managed to climb on and reach the other flowers. When she finished, she still wasn't using her wings at all, and what happened next, honestly, was amazing. I know it probably sounds like I'm exaggerating, but she stuck her fuzzy leg out as if she were hailing a taxi, stepped back onto my hand, and I just knew at this point that she trusted me and she understood that I was trying to help. Then after almost 45 minutes of carrying this little bee around the garden to different flowers, we moved to a lovely Deutzia shrub, which is the second picture, where unfortunately Jacqueline finally regained her independence and, much to my dismay, didn't need my help anymore. But it was incredible, and I just wanted to share this story with you because I'm so pleased that I happened to have my camera with me, and I feel incredibly blessed to have had this heartwarming interaction. And it has also been a lovely way to kind of start conversations with people like Simon about, you know, how we can help the bees and how easy it is to, you know, help the insects and everything. So that's me. Thank you.
That's absolutely brilliant, Emily. Thank you so much. There are, obviously, that kind of information with the flowers that bees like is really useful, because one of the things that we do within gardens is to try and include the flowers that bees like, especially, partly because we like seeing the bees, but partly because we know that bees need our help, and we need to make sure that those plants are the right ones. So what we also, if we know which bees are which, then we can also start fine-tuning the plants that we put in. As you say, the lilac there was absolutely super. Could we just nip back to those pictures for a moment, please,
We
Ross?
can. Before we do that, we've just had a couple of things come back in the chat. One come back saying, epic, Emily, bravo, great story. Another one saying, fab story, Emily, and that's it for now. Oh, we've had a question come in as well. Why did the bees come out in a ball from your earlier story about the bees being out in a ball?
All right, we can certainly cover that one. It's because you only ever have one queen in a nest. And the majority of the bees are female, and the majority of those females are workers. But every now and then, the queen will lay eggs that will develop into queens. And I'm not exactly sure of the process, but the eggs that are put in, it depends on, I think it's the jelly that makes a queen. And I think it's a case of whether they're fertilized or not, depends on whether the bee that emerges is male or female. as I said, most of the bees that we got are females. Females can actually reproduce without, to a large extent, they just have the males for that reproduction thing. But I think females can actually produce females. They need the male to get the queen. Now, I'll have to check up on the definite facts of that, but I think that that's the way that that works. So when there's two queens, because a hive or a colony can only sustain so many bees and a queen can only last so long. So they'll have another queen. So they came out, and obviously the existing colony for the old queen stayed where it was. The new queen split up, and half of the colony went with the new queen, half the colony went with the old queen. So that's why they would have split up. Okay, I just wanted to nip back to Emily's pictures, because I have to admit, I just sat and basked in the glory of Emily's photography, and what I never actually did was see which bee that is. Now, I think that's either a white-tailed bumblebee or a buff-tailed bumblebee, and a lot of the bumblebees have their names by the colour of their tail. I mean, those people who are really, really good at bees will know there are different widths to the stripes, and there are slightly different colours, because there are 20 or 30 different types of bumblebee in this country. But it is quite interesting to actually not only work out which bumblebee's which, but maybe if we actually have a look and see which bees prefer which flowers, which would also, again, be really, really cool.
Just another question come in. How do you tell the difference between a male and female bee?
Mostly the females of the bee are much bigger than the females. They are also generally...
Females much bigger than the males. You said females much bigger than the females.
Females are much bigger than the males, yes. And the females are generally bigger and bolder in colour. The male tends to be somewhat more drab, and as I say, they don't have a great deal of to do. So the chances are that the bees that you see are females, almost exclusively. It's a very, very matriarchal society. I think majority of insect worlds are, but bees especially. And yes, Lucy, even with these glasses on, I can read that. Yeah, so that's bees. So again, thank you very, very much for that, Emily. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there are still bees out there doing their thing. So maybe we see if we can find some more pictures of different bees, and we can run that, because one of the things that we are going to look at, and we're going to plan that for one of the next episodes, is the video that the first video was in November, and that was on a hebe. Now, mostly hebes are finished now for the year, and the majority of planting is finished for the year. But one of the things that's been interesting this year is the fact that Mahonia is a spiky leaf plant with a really bright yellow flower. Now, they usually flower for January, but they're flowering now. Viburnum is another one, has a white pinky kind of flower. And I went out at the beginning of November thinking I would give my viburnum a haircut, only to discover it was already full of buds. So I haven't been able to give it a haircut. It looks scruffy now. It's going to look even more scruffier in March, but viburnums normally flower from December through to about March. So we thought we'd spend some time actually looking at some of the plants that are flowering really, really early this year. Those two in particular have stood out, but there are others. And we thought that would make quite an interesting feature, because also, if the old wives are right, and we have had a bumper harvest this year, we've still got some raspberries on the plants in our garden. They don't look like the best ever raspberries, but they're still producing fruit. The blackberries on the brambles have been huge. The sloes are still on the trees now. It's been really, really weird with things hanging on and other things starting early. So we thought we'll do an article about that crossover in a future episode. Anyway, we're moving. Despite the fact that we've missed a couple of bits, we're managing to ramble. I'm managing to ramble anyway. So we're going to move swiftly onwards, because after all that, see what you set off in us, Emily. Just, we love this kind of inspiration and this kind of stuff. Incidentally, if you have any more comments, please put them in the chat. And if you can, because that's what this is about, you know. And also, if you have got any articles that you'd like to bring in, anything you'd like to contribute or come and talk to about, then please come and get involved, because that's what it's about. And if you put more stuff in, I'll talk a bit less. Anyway, moving swiftly onwards, walk 4 in our series of 5 long distance walks. We've got Ross is going to tell you a little bit today about the Ridgeway.
Yeah, no, so today is all about the Ridgeway, which was walk number 4 that we did, which was back in, if I'm correct, it would be July 2016 we went and did the walk. We travelled up for a family wedding the day before, and then we spent the next week after doing the Ridgeway. Now, I've got a couple of short little bits of knowledge about the Ridgeway, which I will tell you first before we get into the pictures. Now, the Ridgeway itself is one of the shorter ones within the UK. It's only 87 miles long. Now, for those of you that were here last week, we did Hadrian's Wall, which is 84 miles long, if I'm correct from memory. If you did miss that episode, you can go back and watch it on either the YouTube channel, or you can go back and watch it on the Facebook group and the Facebook page. It stretches from Overton Hill to Streatley, but we walked it backwards because it worked out for us that it was easier to start at the finish and walk to the start. It is Britain's oldest road as well. It was used a lot of time for a lot of trade deals going from one side of the country to the other, down to the ports as well. Portsmouth was used quite a lot, and the road actually was used mainly to go into main city areas or cities of the time. It also goes past a lot of castles as well, because the whole route is designed so you can travel from place to place selling your goods, or you can travel place to place to buy the goods that you're after. It was extended and adapted into a national trail in 1973. The original walk is slightly different to the one that is there now, that everyone can go and walk as a national trail. But that was only due to roads being put in place, like motorways, A roads, and villages being put into place as well along the way, which have edited it slightly, but they've only adapted it to make it more countrified than actually going out and walking through the middle of lots of little towns. There's a lot more of being outside in the country than there is going through towns. The Ridgeway also passes many an Iron and Bronze Age historical sites, as well as lots of castles and Avebury Stone Circle. Again, because of it being a old road, one of Britain's first roads, it was used quite a lot for everyone to go through. So there's a lot of Neolithic things going on, especially Wayland Smithy, which I will talk about in a little while. There is a lot of castles and there is a lot of monuments along the way, just because it was where it was used so regularly, it made sense for them to build their monuments, their castles all along the way. And it was also, an interesting little fact, was featured on TV in 2005 as one of the wonders of the South. I'm not entirely sure what the other wonders of the South was, but I'll definitely have to go back through the archive of BBC iPlayer, or I think it was Channel 4, and try and find that to watch it, because I'm interested to see what other things they've got on there as wonders of the South. So no, right, let's get into the slides and the pictures for today. So, slide 1 is surprisingly a quarry called the Ridgeway Quarry. Not too much information about this, because I did struggle to find a fair chunk, but it is a disused sandstone quarry, and it's been out of action for the last 30 years. Now, when we went through the map before we started the walk, we didn't actually know it was there. And we've just got through a town on one side, and we just got back into the country. And you could hear a lot of screaming teenagers and a lot of splashing. So we thought, what's that? And as you're walking along, there were a couple of gaps in the fence. So we went through and had a look, and we found, well, we walked down this trail, which you can just about see at the bottom of the image, to this area. And this quarry has now been taken over by nature, or taken back by nature. And is now used regularly, I'm guessing, by the locals as, in the summer, a place where they can go and swim. They can take the push bikes, they can ride around, they can lay in the sun. which is brilliant to see, because it shows that as much as the younger generation may not appreciate nature for what it is, but where nature has reclaimed a quarry, which we used years and years ago to harvest sandstone, has now been reused by the younger generation as a playground, essentially, where they can go in the summer and they can swim and things like that, which is great to see. And that is one of my key aspects with this, when Dad asked me if I wanted to come on board with it, was to try and get the younger generation involved. Now, at the time, I didn't realise when we were doing this part of the walk that that's what I wanted to be doing. I wanted to be outside in nature. I wanted to get my age group involved. But if you do have any questions that you think I should be asking the younger generation, or any suggestions, sorry, that's the word I'm looking for, any suggestions of how I can get my age group on board, that would be gratefully appreciated. Just to answer your question I've seen in the chat, where does the Ridgeway start and end? The Ridgeway starts and ends. It starts at Overton Hill and ends in Streatley. Now, we did the walk backwards. We started in Streatley and walked to Overton Hill.
Ivinghoe Beacon.
Ivinghoe Beacon.
Ivinghoe Beacon. Near Tring.
Which is, yeah, right. Anyway, on to the next slide. Next slide.
Well,
so I'm getting a bit carried away, I think, in some areas. Now, on this day of the walk for us, which was day 3.
Tuesday,
day 3.
Tuesday,
day 3. July, some point, 2016. We actually had possibly one of the wetter days out of all the walks we've had. Well, out of the 5 walks we've done, possibly one of the wetter days we've had.
torrential.
It was absolutely torrential. This walk for us, this was the first one we'd ever done, which was predominantly going through each day and staying at a bed and breakfast every night. Majority of the walks, all of the walks we've done prior to this, apart from the North Downs Way, we've done by camping and doing it the old-fashioned style and going out with the big packs, everything loaded in, and carrying our life on our backs. Whereas this walk we'd actually done with just small rucksacks with a change of clothes, basic lunch and everything that we needed for the day, enough water to keep us going, enough food to keep us going, and our waterproofs. We started this day, and when we woke up, it was torrential. So we knew we were in for a wet day. So we put on the waterproofs, we left, and we started walking. And as we got to around lunchtime, we walked through Nuffield, and it has the church, which you can see on the left, which is the Holy Trinity Church in Nuffield. And there, when we walked past, they had a water tap outside, which was drinking water, so we could get the dogs some water. And we saw that they had a sign up saying, "Walkers, please come in. We've got an honesty box." So we thought, oh, brilliant. It's about lunchtime. We can stop off here and have something to eat. So as you can see on the right, there is a 16-year-old me sat there looking a little bit damp, sat in the church. And I've never eaten lunch in a church before, but it was something very nice and honest about going into a church and being able to see that there were fresh cakes there that probably the people in the village had made, and we could have a couple and leave some money in the honesty box. And they actually had a kettle as well, which came in very handy because we were, I wouldn't say cold, but we were damp, and it was nice to have a warm drink in our systems when we had to go back out into the rain. So that was a really lovely part of the day. And we actually got to see that the people on the walk, the people that live on the walk actually show an appreciation for the people that are walking it and understand if it's a little bit wet, or they maybe haven't packed as much food as they'd hoped they needed, or they need some fresh water. There is the option to go into the church and use the honesty box to get some extra bits.
Just kind of reinstalls your faith in human nature, yeah? The fact that somebody's actually thought, okay, there's a need here, and they've addressed it, and they put it in a church. And that's just, it was just so cool, because it kind of happens exactly when you need it. And you know that everything happens for a reason. Well, that was a clear example. Right when we needed somewhere dry with a kettle, there it was.
Now, on to the next slide. Now, this slide is the view from the top of the back garden of the top of a place called the Court Hill Centre, which used to be a youth hostel, but changed to being run by the local trust in 1973. This is technically classed as a bunkhouse. It does have a cafe as well. And basically it's designed so anyone that's in the area can use it as a base if they're on holiday there. Or if you're walking the Ridgeway, you can stop off and you can use their facilities overnight for a very reasonable price. Generally, you find that youth hostels are pretty cheap. Same with bunk houses because they are designed specifically for people doing walks or that just need somewhere to stay that isn't overly priced and isn't hundreds of pounds. But I will be doing a section at some point soon, probably after next week, about different places to stay on walks. So if there's any questions you do have about that, please put it in the Facebook group. Please put it in the chat. And I would love to hear what you guys like to hear about long distance walking. This evening this was the last day of the first couple of days where we had long stints. We knew we had to do long days and long walks. We knew that we had a lot of match to cover, and this was the last day for us before the days started to get a little bit shorter, and we could start to appreciate more than having to do a march every day, have a proper route march to get where we needed to be. So we spent the evening, as much as Dad didn't want to, he spent the evening kicking a football around with me. Now, after we'd spent the day route marching, we did eat some dinner, and then went and played football. And I think both of our feet probably would have appreciated not playing football, especially the next morning we woke up and both of us were still a little bit sore. We've been kicking a ball around all night. But no, in my next week's, just a little teaser for you, in my section in a couple of weeks about the youth hostels and bothies and campsites. This place actually had some very strange room names, but I will leave you to think about what those could be over the next few weeks.
We could tell them one, couldn't we? Just to sort of.
Would you like to tell them one of them?
We stayed in Scatcham Knob. Scatcham Knob.
Yeah, but that's Scutcher, and then the next word was Manob. So they are very interesting names, and we will have to find some more of them from the archives of our walking journals, and give you a couple more when I do a section on the bunkhouses. Now onto the final slide of the Ridgeway. Now the image on the left is Wayland Smithy. Now Wayland Smithy is a Neolithic chambered long barrow. Essentially, it has been there for many years. And it was thought to be the home of Wayland, the Saxon god of metalworking. It's just outside Uffington Whitehorse, and it is definitely a place that you should visit if you are ever there. It is a very historically calming atmosphere when you're there. We were quite fortunate when we turned up. It was very quiet, so we pretty much had the place to ourselves, and you just kind of get to appreciate and experience what this could have been during Neolithic times, and you get to imagine and experience this place itself for what it is. And the slide on the right is us at the end of the walk on our last day, which is one of the greatest moments when you've got to the end of a walk and you don't know, well, you finished it and you've completed it. You don't know what the next walk's going to be, but you've completed this one. And it's just a case of appreciating that the walk is finally done. Now, to us, the Ridgeway, it is one of the favourite walks for a lot of people to do. But for us, it was one of the ones we did because it was right place, right time. But it's definitely worth it if you're ever in an area where the Ridgeway is local. Even if you go and walk a short stint of it, I would highly recommend going and just appreciating it for the views that you get. And all the people that we met on the walk were lovely. Now, I will just hand over to Dad, who's going to read you a section from his book, which you can get if you become a member for free. But we'll touch on that later. So I will just leave that to Dad. So over to you.
Okay, so if you're sitting comfortably, or still sitting comfortably, should we say? Ivinghoe Beacon is high up on the downs and has commanding views for miles and miles all around. It's all rolling hills as far as the eye can see. It's real big sky country. The kind of place you might expect to see buzzards or red kites in the sky, but not today. We did well on the first day. We managed to get a little lost within 10 minutes of leaving the beacon. We were keen to get the pacing better on this walk, and for the most part we succeeded. The first couple of days were long, but this was so we could ease the pace as the walk went on. We stayed in some fabulous places. The Red Lion in Wendover, lovely room in purple, and it had a bath. Orchard Cottage on the next night, greeted with a cream tea, and then ferried to and from the pub because it was raining. A youth hostel, and then the Court Hill Centre. The Court Hill Centre is large, an old building surrounding a courtyard. I think it originally had been stables, but now is converted into an outdoor centre. We understand it is very popular as a base for school visits and activity holidays, but when we visited, there was just us and a family of Dutch folk. The views were fantastic from the top of the Ridgeway generally, but especially here at the centre. Oh. There was nowhere nearby to go and get a meal, so we cooked for ourselves and then chilled as we wished. It was lovely to spend some time with Ross doing what he wanted to do. We spent an hour playing football in our stocking feet until my niece said, "Do you want to walk tomorrow?" We explored the inside of the place and played cards, just spending quality time together, which can be difficult with a teenager. We even had a fairly long conversation. There you go. More another time. 3-year pond. So, quickly, I don't think Ian's here, is he?
No, Ian is not here this evening.
But what we have got is we're very quickly going to show you, we've got a lovely picture, which we actually got from a bird feeder, and which was actually of a house mouse on our bird feeder back in the days when a yard. So, look,
there he
talk
is.
of the devil, he's just arrived. So we'll let him in. Oh, hello, Ian. So this is a field mouse on some peanuts, and this is actually in the backyard. We've only just this last couple of months actually moved the honeysuckle that was in the middle there, but it was just lovely because I managed to get that close. I don't even think the mouse knew that I was there because he was so intent on the food. But we thought with a mouse feature, we would show you this picture. Can we let Ian in to speak?
If Ian would like to speak, if I can just find him amongst the people.
There he is. Can you unmute yourself, Ian?
Hi guys, sorry I got run away with the time and I didn't realise how late it was.
Okay, so hi Ian, can you tell us
Oh,
about your video, please, mate?
Sorry, say again.
Can you tell us a little bit about the video that we're about to see?
Oh, okay, so you've not watched it yet then?
Oh, your timing is actually immaculate. You're like a wizard. You obviously arrived exactly when you meant to.
So yeah, evening all. Sorry, I got some loud winkles in the background as well. So yeah, it was a great meeting last week, and watching the hedgehogs and everything, and it just so happened reminded me of when we was moving our house. We took down this this shed, and when we took the shed down, literally looking down on the ground, tiny little baby mouse. I was like, oh my God, what do we do? And like, so we're standing there and thinking, shall we pick it up? Shall we do? And then mum just comes scouring across and she's like, where is it? And she sees the like little baby and she just goes up and it just puts baby in her mouth and then off she goes. And it was just fantastic. And we literally managed to catch it just about right on the video. But it inspired me last week seeing the clips with the hedgehogs and everything. I thought I've got to send this to Simon, and then he said, "Do you mind if we use it?" Please do, because it's just so lovely to watch and see mum come and get her little baby. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Brilliant. Let's have a look at the video.
Oh, we've got another video that's decided it doesn't want to work this week.
Oh, we can hear a
What a
complaint from
shame.
the other room. I'm not quite sure. We've had a couple that have done that to us. We will get it together, and we'll either get it up on the page tomorrow, or we'll get it on next time. I don't know what's happened. There's been two that have done that. We every time we improve something else falls off the back, which is a real shame. So we have to only apologise, Ian. We're really sorry. We'll have to work out what's going on with that. But anyway, if anyone has technical whiz and understanding, it might be download times, but we'll sort that one out. So, do you want to talk about the challenge?
Yes, so last week we had our horse chestnut challenge. So thank you very much to Chris, who sent in his challenge to the group. This week's challenge is favourite place. Where's your favourite place amongst nature in the countryside? It could be on the seafront, it could be in the woodlands, it could be in your own back garden, it could be somewhere you went as kids. A lot of it is all personal preference. So if you have got a favourite place, please take a picture of you and your favourite place, or just of your favourite place, and please put it into the group, or contact one of us if you'd like to come on maybe to one of the shows and talk about it. So I'll just hand over to Dad.
Okay, we are actually coming quite close to the end, which is quite amazing. Can't believe where the time's gone. Episode 4, and we're almost at the end. Anyway, we introduced last week, we were talking about we need to run this as a membership site because it's taken an incredible amount of time, believe it or not, to actually get all this together. So we're going to be looking for people to join, to become members of our site, to enable us to keep going and put this properly together. Last week, we launched the founder membership scheme. And the founder scheme is for people who are enjoying what they're doing, put their faith in us, and basically get the best value package we are ever going to be able to offer. So what do you get as a founder member? Well, this is the way it's going to work. We're going to, the first 15 people that sign up, and we're really, really amazed that we've already sold a third of those. Absolutely unreal. You get to join for £15 per calendar month. Okay. You will then pay, you don't pay that till January. Nobody pays until January. But you then keep your membership at £15 forever, for as long as either we are running or for as long as you're a member, okay? As a founder member, you also will get all 3 copies of the books that I've written. Yeah, we'll get those out to you very, very quickly. Some have gone out already. More should be arriving tomorrow, which is fantastic. You also get to buy any of the sale items we have at 15% off, whether that's a hedgehog box, bat box, a bird box. It could be kickballs that are hedgehog friendly. All of those, and the walks we do when they're up and running, can also be for sale for 15%. Now, we think that that's a pretty cool offer. If anybody else after that joins before Christmas, they will still get to join for £15, but they will then, as the future goes, be subject to any other increases proportionally. At the end of December, we're going to stop the membership and we'll reopen it in January, and it'll be £20 a month. Now, we think that's pretty amazing value, and we'd love to get you signed up. If you would like to be a founder member, and also with the Facebook group, which will be a closed group, then obviously you'll get the badge that says founder member. So just let us know and we can get the link across to you. Okay.
We've just, oops, sorry to interrupt. We have just had Ian come back. He reckons he can get the video up for us. So we'll just quickly hand back over to Ian, and hopefully he can bring up the video for us.
You're making co-host.
Already have.
Cool.
So Ian, if you could, I've made you a co-host, Ian. So if you could please share the video if you can.
Unmute yourself if you want to.
And I've also, here we go.
Unmute. Here we go. Let's see if we can get. Let's see if we can get it a bit bigger. And screen in there. Full screen. There we go. And play. You see it?
We can.
Yes.
We can't hear it, but we can see it.
There we go. Oh, it's a bit jerky. Let me see if I can restart because I was jiggling about with the screen. Right, here we go. And play.
We're having the same problem. The internet's really slow at the moment.
There we go. I think you just might be able to see it. Here she is. Here she comes.
When we first looked at it, I thought, well, that mouse is a bit.
Yeah, there she goes. Look, she got it. Can you see it all right?
It's a little jerky, but yeah, we can see, you know, we can see exactly what it is.
Yeah.
We'll go to the Simple Life page tomorrow, and then people can see it at proper speed.
Yeah, I'll see if I can pause it when she gets. Right, so there she is. She's literally just at the foot of it. If I can let it go forward a tad more. There she is. She's just about to pick it up.
That's my video.
There she goes. And bless her with her in her mouth.
This
So
is-
how lovely to see, eh?
gives you some idea of the perspective.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go, guys.
That is truly amazing, Ian. Truly amazing. So a couple of things come back in the chat. Someone's come back saying, wow. Another one saying, wow, this is amazing. Another one saying, oh, that's so sweet. Another one saying, so tiny. And another one saying, this is amazing, beautiful little babies. So thank you very much, Ian. We do appreciate sending the videos in. If you have got any videos of your own of nature, of anything that you would like to share with the group and share with everyone, please get in contact. We would love to see everything. Please share it on the page or get in contact with us. Thank you very much, Ian. Amazing.
Okay, so we're coming to an end. As I say, if you'd like to become a founder member, then let us know and we'll get the link across to you. You can actually find the link on the Simple Life page. It is there at the top. So if you'd like to become a member, let us know. If you want to get involved with a challenge, just take a picture of yourself in your favorite place, put it up on the Simple Life group or the page. That would also be absolutely stunning. But here's a little one just to finish off with. We keep talking about these favorite places. We talked about them at the beginning, and we talked about them at various times through. I was reading a book just lately, and it was making the point, the happiest people are those people who are independent of the good wishes of other people. And if you think, quite often when we are upset, it's quite often what someone else has done or said or caused, maybe rightly. But also when we're really, really happy, that can also be as a result of other people. And we shouldn't knock or praise those. But you know, if we are properly listening to our inner selves and we are true to that, then we can find our own inner peace and our own inner calm and our own inner happiness. And we can still enjoy the things that other people do for us. We don't then get quite so lost when things don't go our way. Because, as we've said before, we are only here for a short time. And our responsibility, as long as it's not at the expense of anyone else, is to be happy. So on that note, we'll say thank you very much for coming. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Be happy. See you next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Nice one. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.